Hi, welcome to NAXSA's podcast number 3. We are going to be talking with representatives from OSHA about the alliance that was put together a little bit ago with NAXSA and other organizations. Thank you for joining us. I'm James McRae. I am the Communications Committee Chairman for NAXSA. I also help edit our newsletter. What is NAXSA? NAXSA stands for the North American Excavation Shoring Association. The industry organization was created to promote the safe and efficient use of excavation shoring practices. NAXSA includes shoring manufacturers, engineers, and shoring rental companies. All these groups share the common goal of maintaining safety in the excavation shoring industry, resulting in 0 deaths and injuries due to trench cave-ins and other excavation safety issues. With us today are 2 great gentlemen from OSHA. First being Bill Matarazzo. How are you doing today, Bill?
Very well, thank you.
Bill is an industrial hygienist and National Alliance Coordinator with OSHA. He provides leadership and guidance in the development of formal relationships with employer association groups, such as NAXSA, plus labor representatives and safety and health professionals. Bill began his career with OSHA in 2000. During his 23-year career, he has spent most of his efforts developing outreach and training tools for both internal and external stakeholders. He has a bachelor's and master's degree in occupational safety and health from Murray State University in Kentucky. Thank you, Bill, for being here. And our second guest is Bryant Seymour. How are you doing today, Bryant?
I'm great, James. How are you, bud?
Thanks for joining us. Bryant has had a career including 20 years of experience in the construction industry. He joined OSHA's Directorate of Construction in 2016 as a safety and health specialist. His safety career began with coordinating lead and asbestos abatement during large-scale demolition projects on military bases. He has held roles managing and contracting both public and private projects in the residential, commercial, and government sectors. I'll tell you what, Brian, why don't we start with you? OSHA, I think most people think OSHA as an enforcement agency. What is the purpose of the Alliance program?
Okay, James. Well, thanks for that question. I guess I would start with saying that enforcement of our standards is really only a fraction of what we do. And just a little bit of history. With the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, the OSHA Act, Congress created OSHA to ensure safe and healthful work conditions for workers in this country. And with that, writing and enforcing standards is obviously an important part of that mission. But also included, and I think equally as important, is our mission to provide training, outreach, and things like education, and probably most important, compliance assistance. And I think this alliance is a great example of that. I feel like it's an opportunity to establish collaborative relationships, right? Especially with employers in the construction industry that, are frankly committed to workplace safety and health. And I think building these relationships afford an opportunity for the agency to go beyond enforcement. And, this alliance is a chance to work with employers to make health and safety a core value in every company, every job site, every construction site across the country. And I say all of that to offer this, right? Safety is a fundamental right that every worker is entitled to. And I see this alliance as an effective way to help make that happen. I really do. And as far as OSHA's alliance program and some of the details, I'll hand it over to Bill to talk about that a little bit.
OSHA's alliance program, for your viewers who may not be aware, was actually created in 2002. It establishes how alliances are formed, and they can be formed at the national level, where Brian and I both reside in our respective directorates. And they can also be formed at one of our 10 regional offices or one of our almost 90 area offices across the country. The program was revised in 2020 to include the fundamental requirements, which help shape the expectations for the Alliance participants and what they will agree to moving forward as conditions of their participation in the program. One of the things that's key with these fundamental requirements is that we ask each of our Alliance participants to put forth a reasonable time and resources towards the commitment towards the goals, disseminating relevant information from OSHA initiatives and other resources to their stakeholders and members, and providing information on their Alliance activities back to OSHA so we know what's being communicated in different types of events that are being held to ensure that we are actually getting everything to where the rubber meets the roads, the workers. Another fundamental requirement, and speaking of workers, is to ensure that each Alliance has a worker component piece to it. We want to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table so they can weigh in on the different goals and outcomes of the Alliance. Lastly, there is an administrative piece to every Alliance, and this is the biannual data submissions. We ask that each Alliance member quantify all of the different things that they may be doing, whether they be blogs, newsletters, amazing podcasts like this, James, and report back to us how many views, hits, read receipts, those types of things. Examples of different groups that OSHA would form an alliance with would be trade and professional associations such as NAXSA, labor unions, educational institutions. It could be community or faith-based groups, and even government agencies. You'll frequently see NIOSH participate in a lot of our alliances. The purpose of the alliance is for OSHA and the alliance participants to collaborate, develop, and disseminate industry-specific information. Could be guidance, could be OSHA initiatives, could be emphasis programs, as well as other information that pertains to worker rights and employer responsibilities under the OSHA Act. After the interested party comes to OSHA, and in this case, that's NAXSA, and we agree on the purpose of the alliance and how we're going to achieve all the goals, we then establish a written agreement. So we spell it out and we become signatories to that agreement, and that agreement goes into place for a term of 2 years. If upon successful completion of those 2 years where we've hit all of our benchmarks and our goals, we can extend that alliance an additional 5 years. We refer to that as renewal, and we will outline new goals for that renewal alliance. The ultimate part of our program is after we have had a successful initial alliance and renewal period, we can then promote NAXSA and other alliance members to the ambassador status, which is essentially means we will have an evergreen alliance where our subject matter experts can reach out to yours and vice versa as the need arises to continue to promote the advancement of safety and health.
How did you see this alliance coming together, and what do you think its goals are and should be?
OSHA actually received calls from NAXSA in the fall of 2022, I believe it was. And NAXSA expressed to OSHA their desire to form a formal relationship that would have a broader impact in the trenching and excavation industry. We're ecstatic to hear from them. And with the information that they provided, OSHA and NAXSA sat down and we essentially brought all of our subject matter experts together, like Bryant, and analyzed data from the Department of Labor's BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. At that time, we had 2021 data that was released the prior year, and we were looking at that, and there was 986 fatalities in construction. The majority of those fatalities, or I should say a significant part of those fatalities, were credited to the Focus 4 hazards. We refer to the Focus 4 hazards essentially are the falls, the struck-bys, the electrocutions, and the caught-in-betweens. And of those 15 of the fatalities were caused by trenching and excavation. And quite frankly, when we saw that number was greater than 0, we knew we could do more, but 15 was beyond alarming. So after several more meetings took place, OSHA and NAXSA kind of collectively decided to expand the network, and other key stakeholders that were also taking positive actions to educate their members wanted to join hands and join forces. So, because when we brought all of these groups together, such as the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, the National Utilities Contractor Associations, the Association of General Contractors, the Common Ground Alliance, and a couple of labor organizations, actually, the Laborers International Union of North America and the International Union of the International Union of Operating Engineers, excuse me. So the 7 of us came together. We signed a formal alliance on June 22nd, 2023. And we actually refer to it as the Partners for Safe Trenching and Excavation Operations Alliance. And if your viewers want to go take a look at that agreement or any of the successes we've had, you can find that on www.osha.gov/alliances.
Okay.
Brian, is there some more that you wanted to add in here?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to, Bill. Thank you for that. That was a really well thought out and detailed roadmap of how the alliance came about. And I tell you what, you discussed how the alliance came together, and you finished there with a statement of why it came together. You also conveyed some statistics, but I thought maybe I would expand on that a little by discussing the numbers that are specific to trenching and, more or less why preventing exposure to cave-ins continues to be a priority for OSHA, because it does. Last year, we saw a pretty dramatic increase in deaths caused by trench collapses. Frankly, 2022 ended with 39 trenching fatalities. That surpassed 15 in all of 2021. And, that's alarming. And that huge jump is the main reason the agency is sharpening its focus on trenching. And, in the midst of this rise of fatalities in July of 22, Assistant Secretary Parker actually issued a press release that outlined the agency's response to that alarming upward trend, And what I took away from Assistant Secretary Parker's message in that press release was that OSHA would use every tool in its toolbox to address these fatality numbers, and we continue to do so. He talked about, ramping up our National Emphasis Program, our NEP for excavations out in the field. He set goals for field staff to increase trench inspections through this NEP. He also talked about OSHA's on-site consultation program, which is a free and confidential program for small and medium-sized businesses. And I know, Bill, I think you touched on that earlier, but I wanted to point out that, considering the majority of excavation companies have less than 10 employees, right? And, and this number fluctuates from year to year, but the trend is that generally speaking, 80 to 90% of the fatalities in construction are associated with companies that have less than 10 employees, which is remarkable. And, getting back to the on-site consultation program, that's there to assist these smaller companies. And, I'd like to also add that it's actually provided through state agencies and universities. And most importantly, I want to stress that it's a free service. Everybody likes free. A lot of folks might not know about this service, but, getting back to the alliance, the good news is this alliance is a great way for folks to hear about it. In that press release, Assistant Secretary Parker also shared a story about a fatal incident that took place down in Texas, and it was it was one of those that kind of pulled on the heartstrings a little bit. If I recall, it was a pretty deep excavation, maybe 20 feet or deeper. And if I remember correctly, I think there were actually family members that perished in that excavation. And I can tell you from experience just how tragic these cave-ins are. I've been in construction, a long time, and I've actually seen some of this. And I'll back up and tell you that I grew up in a small town, right? And this was a number of years ago, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but in this small town, there was a company that did the majority of the town and the county's utility work. And this company was owned by an old fella. I think he started the company in 1940 or 1950. And his son was actually, the main supervisor for the company. And then his son, the grandson, was one of the laborers. And they were digging an excavation in town, and there was a trench collapse. Now, I'm going to set it up for you because it was just the way things worked out. The unfortunate circumstances made it so I can't forget this. The grandson was in the hole when the collapse happened, and he was buried up to his shoulders. His father was running that project. He was on site when that happened. And it just so happened that the grandfather, the owner of the company, stopped by the project to see how things were progressing, all while that collapse happened. And I hate to say it, the grandson actually died in that trench. His father was there, and his grandfather was there to see it happen. And the ripple effect felt through the community. I mean, it was just remarkable. And I just think that stories like this, just show you how, families, obviously, and whole communities can be affected by tragic events like this, and I think the saddest part of the story, isn't just that, family members were, witnessing another family member perish, but the fact that it was very preventable. This was preventable, and it didn't have to happen, so anyway, not to go off on too far of a tangent, but getting back to the original question is, the how and the why of this alliance. And I think that doing everything we can to prevent tragedies like this is the why. I think a group effort throughout the industry can go a long way. I think this alliance and all the good people like NAXSA that make up the membership of this alliance together can help prevent these horrible incidents. And unofficial numbers, I don't have the official numbers haven't come out yet, but it's worth noting, I think, the data from 2023, there were 16 trenching fatalities in the calendar year. So having said that, and again, that's unofficial data, but I think we are trending in the right direction. But I know OSHA, just like NAXSA, wants that number to be 0. And I guess that's where I'll stop with that one.
Brian did an amazing job of really talking about how workers in the industry will benefit from the alliance. Bill, how do you think OSHA will benefit from this partnership?
When we created the work plan, when we created the alliance, one of the things that accompanied that was a work plan, and that was a roadmap of the different types of activities that we wanted to piece together. And when all the parties came together and agreed upon that, we agreed at the end of the day, when we took a look at it, we're like, wow, there's a lot, we actually have a lot planned. Some of the projects will be joint efforts amongst different participants, and the other ones will be led by, individual members, signatories to the alliance. A couple that really jump out, I won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to make sure that your audience is aware of a few of them. One of the underlying expectations I kind of hit on earlier is the sharing of OSHA's national emphasis programs and other items, including those relevant to trenching, excavation, equipment operators, and other construction related activities. But one of the other goals that we wanted to increase collaboration amongst all of the groups. We wanted to create new and effective ways to generate trenching and shoring safety communication to ensure that we're reaching all workers. And we want to make sure that those communications are then coupled with meaningful training and educational opportunities that would also be not just accessible to NAXSA, the members, and the other stakeholders or government, but also to those small and medium-sized contractors who may otherwise not have the resources. Because anything and everything that we do under the Alliance program is made free and available to all, posted either on the Alliance webpage, OSHA's webpage, other resources, or we disseminate it through our quick takes newsletters and so on. One of the things that we absolutely love about this alliance, and James, I know you're very familiar with it, is the annual Trench Safety Summits. We appreciate NAXSA to every length, their ability to bring together OSHA industry stakeholders, equipment manufacturers, construction, building contractors, other utilities, labor organizations, and more. And they provide classroom training, live demonstrations, as well as roundtable discussions on best practices and effective approaches to reduce and eliminate hazards. I know NAXSA put on 3 trench safety summits in 2023. I know they aspire to do 4 in 2024. And I think the first one's coming up April 19th, 2024 in Tempe, Arizona. So as I understand, NAXSA is going to be releasing some more information on that soon. So I guess for your audience, I hope I'm not a spoiler, or steer your lightning, but I would encourage everyone to kind of, keep their eyes out for more information on that. 2 other items that I'd like to mention that are significant for your viewers is there is an annual Shore Up for Safety Week. This year, that's going to be May 6th to May 10th. The goal is to mobilize the organization members and other colleagues and promote safety awareness and training through hands-on activities through contractors and crews, or with contractors and crews. So more information on that to come. Lastly, we have below and above ground demonstrations that the Association of Equipment Manufacturers host. We did a below ground demonstration last year. This upcoming year, they want to do an above ground demonstration where they will put together various workstations and partnering with other of the Alliance participants here under the Partners for Safe Trenching and Excavation Alliance to learn from equipment manufacturers, engineers, operators on hazard awareness and other best safety practices associated with various job tasks. It's actually a really cool thing to do. They're going, if I remember correctly, it's going to be hosted by the Local 150 of the Union of Operating Engineers, which is located in Wilmington, Illinois. And I believe that date is June 13th. So we'll send out some more information on that to come as well. So those are some of the key projects that we're working on in the Alliance. But to get back to your question about how do we think it's going to be a benefit to OSHA? Well, again, we believe that through our efforts and then this alliance that we're all coming together and we're taking this positive step forward to reduce and eliminate those preventable injuries and fatalities related to cave-ins, focus 4 hazards and other equipment related hazards. So we're hoping, as you know, part of Alliance programs to reach and engage with as many employers and vulnerable and non-English speaking workers as possible. And in addition to that, there's a huge benefit to OSHA is that we are especially excited for NAXSAs to create their own Project Zero program. Now, some of your viewers may not know what this is, but so let me just open up here a little bit and say the goal of this program ultimately is for NAXSA subject matter experts on trenching, excavation, shoring operations to provide both online or in-person training to OSHA inspectors. Which OSHA inspectors? Well, we want to get to OSHA inspectors in all 10 OSHA regions. And hopefully the goal is if we can successfully pilot that at one location, tweak it as need be and get to the other regions, we would then like to expand it to all of the state plan states and the other territories that have jurisdiction over the private sector. So we believe that is a significant benefit to OSHA. Brian, is there anything else that you'd like to add or you could think of that would be another benefit to OSHA or the industry?
I want to highlight the fact that one of the things that you said, you were talking about all workers, I believe you said ensure all workers get home to their families or something along those lines. And, with that, I would add another aspect to how American workers benefit from this alliance, and that aspect for me is an important one, and that's equity, right? OSHA is committed to equity, and we are embedding equity in everything that we do. Let's try to sum this up. I would say that safety and health are not core values in a workplace unless every worker is equally safe. And, This alliance is a way to stress how equity in the workplace is crucial. It's crucial to getting the injury and fatality numbers down when doing trenching work. And I actually have some numbers that I could run through real quick. I don't have the 2022 data in front of me, but I do know that African American worker fatalities reached an all-time high in 2021, and that's alarming. African American workers represented 12.6% of total fatalities in construction, and that's an increase of more than 20% from 2020. And Latino workers continue to have the highest fatality rates. The rate for Hispanic or Latino workers was 21%. The bottom line that I'm getting to here is the folks attached to this alliance, I think, can help make sure that vulnerable workers are in the environments that are safe and healthy. That's the bottom line. And I think alliances are an effective way to increase the language access and provide information on, things like the agency's enhanced whistleblower protections. And I just go ahead and throw in there too, if your viewers want more information on any of this, including worker rights and whistleblower protections, you can go to OSHA.gov and /whistleblower. And that's all. Our website has everything you could possibly want.
So, Brian, what is OSHA doing from an enforcement perspective?
Well, James, I would say again, that OSHA is more than enforcement, like I said at the beginning, but having said that, the agency is committed to using all of our enforcement tools. The thought process is deterrence and intervention, and that deterrence and intervention, I think, can create lasting change. And the OSHA is, especially focused on, and this is an important one, the bad actor type employers, the repeat offenders out there that continue to put their employees in harm's way over and over again. As James, excavation work is very hazardous. And, these bad actor employers are the folks that are very aware of OSHA standards. And they also know full well how dangerous excavation work is for their workers. But for some reason, they're still not preventing trench boxes or shoring, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. But for employers like that, we have updated our severe violator enforcement program, and that strengthens our enforcement and improves compliance. We're also making penalties more effective in a number of ways. Regional administrators, area directors now have more authority to group violations, and then a newer policy is to cite instance by instance. The bottom line is we're aggressively reviewing enforcement cases to increase our enforcement abilities. We're looking at cases to send to federal and state prosecutors for criminal prosecution in some situations. The bottom line, point I'm trying to make here is the agency has zero tolerance for employees who disregard worker safety, and especially those who do it over and over again. And, we talked about our NEP earlier. One thing I would like to add, with that NEP, our compliance staff, our officers out there, they can initiate an inspection anytime they observe an open trench or excavation. And that's an important thing to remember, and also, under this NEP, the area office and all of the regions have developed and implemented, very comprehensive excavation safety outreach programs. So bottom line is we're out there to educate about excavation hazards as much as we are out there to possibly cite these dangerous cave-in hazards.
All right. So in conclusion, we'll start with Bill. What should the private sector expect from OSHA moving forward?
Sure. Appreciate the question, James, and just so excited to be here with you guys today. So as you've heard, OSHA is taking a multi-pronged approach to reduce and eliminate all these injuries, fatalities, trenching, excavation, shoring, and other focus 4 hazards just as much as possible. If the number is greater than 0, we know that there's work to be done. And we're going to continue to provide effective enforcement and address the bad actors, as Brian just covered over the SPEP as well as the NEP programs. We're going to continue to provide that free on-site consultation services to those small and mid-sized employers. We're going to continue to conduct outreach with the assistance of key alliance stakeholders like NAXSA to ensure that we're doing everything we can to reach out to all workers, especially and including vulnerable and non-English speaking workers. For, as Brian cited some of the statistics earlier, we want to make sure that everybody's provided guidance and information, as well as training and resources, a language and level of understandings. So there's a lot to be done. We want to ensure everyone in the industry understands all of their rights as workers and the responsibilities of employers under the OSHA Act. We encourage your members, as well as other small, mid-sized contractors, to reach out to OSHA, whether it be here in the national office, whether it be in a regional office, or be one of our area offices. I guess one of the end takeaways I'd like to say is, when in doubt, reach out, is kind of how I look at it. Brian, is there anything else you want to add here?
Yeah, before we go, I just want to thank NAXSA for asking us to participate in this important discussion. How about I'll end with slope it, shore it, shield it. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bill, Mr. Matarazzo, and Bryant, Mr. Seymour, for participating with our third NAXSA podcast. At some point, we will need to come up with a better name than NAXSA podcast. But until then, thank you for joining us. And make sure that if you need any resources related to excavation safety, that is at naxa.org. And hopefully we will see you in the future.